Please, allow me to show you something.
Welcome back to the All in My Head podcast. I'm Jenny and I am your host. And you have landed here today for episode 36. And it is called Letting Go Gently. And my guest today is Linda Murphy. And let me tell you a little bit about Linda. Linda is a retired educator and a lifelong advocate for simplicity and contentment. After decades of teaching and mentoring students, she now writes stories that help children grow confident, mindful, and connected to what truly matters. She is a member of the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators and splits her time between New Jersey and South Carolina. And in talking with Linda this morning when we hopped on to our recording, we were reminded that we met just about 2 years ago now in the fall, and we were in this writing and book publishing class which is with Olli at Coastal Carolina University locally in South Carolina. And we met in that class. We talked a lot in that class. It was really a lovely class. But we have since become friends and stayed in contact after that class. And Linda's a part of my writers group. And she has such a beautiful local connection to things that we're always chatting about. We're always sharing resources with each other. And I'm quite positive that we'll be collaborating in other ways very soon. But I wanted to say that Linda's first children's book, Olli's Cave of Treasures, was officially released on April 22nd. So please go grab your copy and we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. And we're going to talk about her inspiration for the book and what the message is and so much more, because it's not just about a book, although we want to talk about that in great depth, but it is about so much more. So welcome, Linda.
Thank you, Jenny. It's such a pleasure to be here, and I really appreciate you having me on your podcast this morning.
No, thank you so much for being here. I think we're going to jump right in because we have so much we want to touch on. But let's start with what inspired you to write Olli's Cave of Treasures, because you were on a little bit of a different trajectory when we first met. And then all of a sudden, you published a book, and and it wasn't all of a sudden, but to me it was. So tell me, what inspired you to write Olli's Cave of Treasures?
So when we met in Becky's class, my vision at that time, as a retired educator, I used to teach high school accounting and business,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, our youth needs to understand, personal finance better.
Right.
And my mission is I am still going to do that. That's next on the list. But as I was developing that, I took another Ollie story,
Mm-hmm.
of course, titled Intentional Living. And I really started to think about the message of just consumerism, how, we, are battling, pop-up ads, things on TV, just every single thing.
So much.
It really started making me think about things that we collect and accumulate. And I'm like, I want to put this message out there because I downsized. My husband and I moved from our home after 25 years. You know how that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I always considered myself somewhat of like a minimalist, not in an extreme way. But I had so much stuff, and I kept thinking, when is it going to end? The packing and the packing. And then I would see my friends retire, and then, my mom when she passed away, or my husband's mother. And it just made me start reflecting more on how we accumulate and why.
Right.
And I also wanted to help children with tools and a little bit of armor, because As we get older, we realize that it isn't the stuff that makes us happy, but it's elusive, right? As we're growing up, and then, your friends have everything, and you're a young couple having kids, and your neighbors are doing this or that. So I feel if we could learn that lesson earlier in life, how nice would that be, right? And and almost like instead of having to deal with all the clutter later, how about let's not accumulate all that in the
Right.
first place, right?
Right.
So that's sort of my objective. And then I'm going to get back onto the finance thing. But it after Becky's class, I took also another Ollie class on writing a children's picture book. And honestly, it was like opening Pandora's box, but in a way, because it was such a magical world. And my 2 girls are 31 and 34. So I had been out of that for a long time. Even as an educator, I was educating teenagers, 16, 17, and 18. But I thought, children are magical, obviously. And if you can spark an idea at a young age, they're so impressionable. And I just thought that's the space I want to be in. You know, yeah, that's the space, and to put those messages, relevant messages out to
Right.
the kids when they're younger, so that as they grow, they themselves are motivated to learn
Mm.
more about it. You
Mhm.
know, yeah, and it just, I don't know how, but it popped into my head, and I was like, I really need to put this out there before I get on the other thing because I
Right,
think
and
it's
I
so
love that.
important.
Yeah, and I love that, and we've talked about this before, like, when I moved as
Mm.
well from Connecticut to South Carolina, and you're talking, again, 25, 30 years of, just stuff, right? And I had all my kids' stuff, and I'm definitely one of those people who saves everything, right? And my husband's always like, "You need to let that go," you know? And so as I was doing that and, like, unpacking stuff and throwing stuff out, and that was so hard for me, right? Because I was like, I don't want to get rid of this memory, but it wasn't even about that. Like, I started to look at it then as like, what would my children want of theirs moving forward? And I probably watched, I don't know, I think it was Maria Kondo's, how she kind of tidies things up and keeps things so nice and neat. And I just said, you know what, a couple things from each grade, and I pack it up and put it in a box for them, and then they can keep those things. But even in the episode I did back on death and dying with Larissa, we talked about how, do we want to leave all these things for our kids to have to deal with, right? And then what do they do? Do they have this like emotional attachment to it, or is it like, my mom or my dad kept this, so I need to keep that for them? And that's when I started looking at things differently, not only in the terms of death, but also in, right, I need to start giving these things away, getting rid of stuff that's just garbage, because some of it is just garbage, giving stuff away, and then giving them things to my kids that have a story behind it, or leaving it for my grandchildren for later with a little story. But letting go, right? And again, I love that title of letting go gently, because it is a letting go, right? And so, what to you does letting go gently mean in your own life?
So I feel that, okay, some of the things that I have done better at the last several years, and things that I know you do as well, right? The journaling, the gratitude
Mhm.
journal, the all of that. I I had to let go of how things should be,
Mm.
okay?
Mhm.
Um, and how things should be, how people should be, you know, how my husband should be, how my
Mm.
children should be, and accept how they are and how things are. Of course, you're not going to accept, you have to have your boundaries and things like that. But outside of that, yeah, I just had to let go of that idea of how things should be. you
Right.
know, they should have done this, or I did this, so they should have done that, and which is not good. That's something that I'm doing a lot better. and I guess what? I focus on me,
And what
right?
we can control,
Yes,
right?
it's right, the circle of influence, and you're so much happier because when you look at that, we can't we might have some influence, right, in certain
Right.
areas, of course, and then certain things we have no influence, and to keep, spending our energy and our resources
Mhm.
there, which is so unsatisfying,
Mhm.
right? Because you're like, "They don't listen."
Right, right.
They don't
Exactly.
do this or that, and yeah, they don't. So
Right.
just do you, and it's been miraculous, I'll tell you. It's really
It's
been
so
miraculous.
freeing, and I think back to you have 2 children, and I have 3 boys, and, you really do people think, like, it's all by the book and everybody's the same. You really do parent your children very differently. First of all, from your first child to your last child, the middle child is a different beast, but I always have come back in these, past probably I've said it more in these past 6 years than I've ever said it. But my middle son, Nate, he always gave us a challenge. He is very headstrong, but he's also very black and white, and he sees things very black and white. And he was probably 6 or 7 years old, probably 7 years old. And what I could use with my oldest son, Dan, where I'm very disappointed in you. And that was enough to kind of correct his behavior. And we talked it out, and then we'd move forward. And I don't remember the situation per se, but I remember saying to Nate, I'm very disappointed in you. And his immediate comment was, well, if you lower your expectations, then you won't be disappointed. Literally just like that. And I kind of, in the moment, you're just frustrated and you're like, what are you talking about? And I'm just like, no, what you did was wrong. And he's just like, maybe it's just not the way you see it, but just you don't have to be disappointed if you lower your expectations. And so I've said that to so many people lately. And again, not in lowering my expectations, but in seeing it a specific way, right? It didn't need to be that way because I wanted it that way. He's fine. He turned out to be a great adult. So clearly, he was still getting all the messages. He just was walking to the beat of a different drum and he was going to do things his way. And
Right.
so I use that with him often. And I say,
Mhm.
don't squash that in your kids. They're very strong personalities. It's a redirecting, but it's also, yeah, not squashing who they are because those personalities will serve them well in this world in a big way. Yeah, but it is very freeing to kind of just go, okay, it's out of my control.
Yes, and then it's funny to observe in others when they do that, and you're
Mm,
like, "Wow," you're like, "I used to do that," and I see, like, it's kinda
yeah.
funny. Yeah,
Yeah, you look back and go, oh, wait,
yeah.
that was me.
Mm,
Yeah, I'm so
mm,
glad it's not.
yeah. Yep, yep.
So let's get into the story and kind of the
Okay.
meaning of this beautiful book. For listeners who haven't read it yet, but they're going to, they're going to go get it and buy it. Can you share a little bit about Ollie and his journey?
Yes, so, again, the message I was trying to get out was that the important things in life are not all those things, right,
Mm-hmm.
that we think we have to buy and accumulate and all of that. I wanted to I didn't just I decided to place it in the ocean
Mm-hmm.
because I also, I'm an advocate for the environment. I love the beach. That's why
Mm,
I'm by the beach in Myrtle Beach and
same.
in New Jersey down the shore. Um, and I want children to also be aware because what we accumulate
Mm-hmm.
affects our environment as
Mm-hmm.
well. I mean, the environment we live in, the outer environment, because a lot of this stuff gets tossed, into garbage and
Right.
things like that. Even when I give away stuff, I try my very best to donate,
Mm-hmm.
get rid of things in a good way, not
Right.
just throw it out.
Right.
Right. So I had an environmental, I wanted it to be environmental, and I thought how cute to come up with the octopus and his turtle friend Tully, Ollie
Mm-hmm.
and Tully. Um, and yeah, so I wanted it because again, kids it's so nice because you can just give them a story and it doesn't have to be a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
right, but they're learning a lesson, and that is like that's what I found, so enchanting, so to speak, of
Right.
doing, like, a children's picture book because you don't have to, like, preach to them and and they can get the message. So Ollie has this beautiful cave in the ocean, and he goes around collecting things, doing, like, what we do in everyday life because, it's so tempting. You go to the store and you see a nice coffee mug or you see a
Yeah.
blanket, and you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh, I want
Yeah.
that." And you're like, "Really? I have 20 already." But you're just
So me.
so he goes around and he finds all these treasures that he loves and brings them home, and they all give him pleasure, and he's just having fun and not doing anything wrong, but all
Mhm.
of a sudden, he's overwhelmed with all the clutter around him,
Mhm.
and he's getting upset, and he's trying to figure out what to do, and he can't find his blanket and his story shell and the
Mhm.
things that really have meaning for him. And then, he he decides that, he pops up one day and he's like, "How am I gonna clean everything up with only 8 arms?"
Right.
Which I thought was adorable.
Yeah.
And he decides he's gonna, give some stuff away, keep those things that are very important to him, um, and that's what he does, and he ends up so much happier
Mm.
because he's clutter free and he can twirl in his cave again, and he found his blanket and he's like, this is all I really need. And I just wanted to get that message out there because I know even my kids, they would look at the TV and be point at it and be like, "I want that." And that's how it was, and
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how many infomercials I went
Right.
for or still I have to fight off the pop-up ads,
Mhm.
on the phone. I mean, these Facebook ads, and I'm like, really, and this is me being conscious,
That's right.
and still, like, the book, I want us to just become more aware, you know, I used to be like, I wanted to buy stuff and
That's
everything was
right.
like, we need to paint our deck or we need to do this. Like it was
Mhm.
always this, I don't know, you were in this kind of mode of
Mhm.
looking at what could I get next. And then it was like, well, can I afford that? Do I have money to do this or
That's
that
right.
or whatever? Now I've shifted my thought pattern to, do I need that?
Mhm.
Like, yeah, I can buy that. Like, I actually can afford that, but is it something I wanna get? And, like,
Right.
what is it gonna do for me?
Right. The need as opposed to the want.
Yes, and I
Right.
can't tell you how and the need and want, it's kind of funny because I used to
Mm.
teach that in school, and that's a
Yeah.
real thing. Do I need food? Do I want but this is more like there are so many things out there. Like,
Mhm.
when is it gonna be enough for
Right.
us?
Will it
It's
ever? Right.
more that, right? Like, I don't really need to have that too.
Mhm.
Or maybe if I am gonna get that, I'm gonna get rid of something else, like cars, right? We don't just accumulate cars. We
Right.
trade in one and get
Right.
another one or whatever, things like that. Um, but it's honestly made me happier in the sense that, first of all, when you move out and you start somewhere fresh, and then you don't want to like reaccumulate things. So
Right.
it's kind of a natural tool in a sense to help you make that transition. But now that I think about things as, do I need it and want it versus, I can have it,
Mhm.
I can afford it, I can get it, is that I I used to look at everything and be like, "I have to do this. I have to get that. We have to paint
Mhm.
the outside of the house." I would always, like, nag my husband.
Right.
"We have to paint inside. We have to get a picture for there. We have to." It was just, I don't know where
Yeah.
that comes from, right?
Mhm.
But I needed to stop that cycle.
Mhm.
We still get nice things when we want them, but I think about them for a
That's right.
while. Do I wanna spend the money on, like, getting that picture or whatever that I saw? Like,
Mhm.
just think about it for a while. Be aware instead of this, like, impulse buying.
Right, exactly, and I think if you're connecting it to, as adults, we feel that way. We know, and we know
Yeah.
it, and we can sit consciously with that. But why do you think letting go can feel so hard for children?
Well, same thing. I think, and that's why I'm hoping, like, to put a message out
Hmm.
there younger,
Yeah,
right? To try to catch that, right? Because, uh, first of all, kids do learn from us. Right,
for
too.
sure.
So, I think we can model that intentionality, you know, almost like as, we're buying things and getting things or discussing
Yes.
purchases in our family, and, I think that we can help with that. But it's just natural for kids to, I think they grow up with that
Hmm.
all around them.
Right.
Especially now that the kids have the cell phones and everything
Right.
that
Cell
we
phones,
didn't even have,
iPads. Yes.
right? Like,
Yeah.
there's so much that really it's they need a
Scary.
tool.
Yeah.
They need a tool because it's out there, and, they're smart marketers, right?
Mm. So smart.
Yeah. So, like I said, being aware, I still have to fight that. I don't know, they just do it. That's how they do it. And I feel with the TV, the phone, everything, that, it's only normal for a kid to think. I used to have that with my kids. They should have a cell phone because their friends had a
Hmm.
cell phone,
Hmm.
or Susie down the street had a bike, so I need a bike.
Right.
That's there everywhere,
That's right.
right? So, wouldn't it be nice to have them think, "I don't need this," as opposed to us telling them they can't have it or whatever. A
Right.
lot of times, right, growing up, what? You were told, "We can't afford that,"
Hmm. Oh, yeah.
right? So then all you wanna do is get that later, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and
Yeah, you wanna fill that void of
yeah,
whatever it is, that emotional
yeah,
void. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and I love, like, I recently I've been talking to my
Mm,
daughter-in-law,
mm,
and, they have a 6 and a soon to be 5-year-old,
mm.
and what I love that they've been doing is they get a lot of stuff for Christmas, and one's birthday falls a couple days after Christmas, so it's double presents, and she's
Yes.
like, "What we do is when we get home, we have
Yeah,
our vacation together, when we get
yeah,
home," she says, "we sit down and we go, 'Okay, listen, you have a lot of new stuff. We need to put stuff in a box
yeah,
that is good and that we can
yep,
donate so that
yeah,
another child can have something.'" So she goes, "I let them take ownership of that and say, 'Okay, this is what I don't need anymore. Somebody else would love this toy because I got this new whatever it is.'" And they're able to go through and really take ownership of what they're letting go of. And I said, that's so beautiful because I think back to when I did it with my kids. I'd just be like, listen, whatever you're not using, throw it in a bag, let's go. Probably not the best way to do it. And I just love how intentional she and my
yeah,
son are in thinking, like, there's an attachment to them in some
mm,
way, shape, or form to these things. But if we give
mhm,
them ownership, it's
yes,
helping them let go of that emotion a little bit, and that they're helping another child get something that they
totally.
might have wanted, right? And it'll bring them that kind of joy. So yeah, I think that this book will definitely help in that way. Can we talk a little bit about that, right? In terms of emotional clutter versus physical clutter, because the
Yes.
two are very intertwined.
Yes, yes, and there's so much research too that proves that physical clutter too,
Mhm.
can cause us emotional clutter. Um, but and just like physical clutter, mental clutter builds up, right?
Right.
And it come like all at once, so to speak.
No.
Yeah, for sure. It builds up and it definitely makes us harder to focus and
Mhm.
enjoy our life. And
Mhm.
sometimes it takes a while to figure that out, right? We just aren't as happy maybe, and you kind of sense something is wrong, but maybe don't realize what it is. So, like like, not being able to focus, things like that, right?
Mhm.
Um, overthinking and looping thoughts. Oh
Mhm.
gosh, we could talk about that. We
We could
could
talk
talk
that could
about
be a whole
that.
episode.
Totally. Too many tasks, unfinished to-do lists. W This is something I struggle with. Well, I'm sure you do too. Constant digital noise and the
Ugh,
notifications and the
so
social
much.
media, worrying about the future. Oh gosh, and replaying the past. That's something
Mhm.
I super struggled with.
Mhm.
And and I feel like signs that we need a spring cleaning, spring cleaning. We can't focus.
Mhm.
We're mentally exhausted. We're busy but not productive,
Mhm.
right? Can't relax and stuck in those negative loops.
And I found that even,
Yeah.
like, last week, I was having a tough time, like, when my desk gets out of
Yes,
control or my to-do list,
me
and
too.
I've been better at a to-do list because I'm
Yeah.
just like, I don't wanna overwhelm
Yes.
myself, but if my
Yes.
desk is a mess,
Yes.
I can't move forward, and I was stuck in this loop, and I just had to get up. I
Yes.
said to my husband, "I'm
Yeah.
let's get up and run away." And he was
Yes.
like he takes it so literally, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Where are we running away to?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Just the park. I don't care.
Yeah.
Anywhere to just get out and walk because this is overwhelming, and I need to come back to it, and I need to clean it up and organize it, but I can't right now. I just need to get out." And I've gotten better at that where or I would sit here for 8, 10 hours and just loop and loop and loop.
Yeah. And that is one of the things that definitely is like a tool, going
Mhm.
out in nature, which always helps,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And also just like sometimes when I struggling and don't I can't get something done, I I'm like, I'm just gonna do this for 10 minutes.
Right.
I had to build a contact list when I was sending out things about the book, and it was just overwhelming because you
It's
have
so
your phone
overwhelming.
lists and you have your email lists and you have this Google list and Outlook, and like I said, I have Outlook and Google, so I'm like, "Where's this link?" So I'm like, now I just say, "I'm gonna just do it for 10 or 15 minutes," and it takes the pressure off, and usually just starting helps, and then before I knew it, several days later, I was done with this thing that I had, you know, procrastinated on for a
Right.
month.
Right.
So I definitely think some of the strategies, number one, time in nature, just walking, helps us feel more grounded. That helps me. Uh, Mindfulness, which obviously do as well. Just focusing on the present moment, journaling your thoughts. Challenging negative thoughts. Okay,
Mm,
so this is something I used to talk so harshly to myself,
mm.
and ironically, when I started to not try to control other people's lives, right, like my husband and my children and stuff, I didn't really do it with my friends. It was more family,
Well,
immediate
yeah,
family.
because that's safe.
Yeah.
You know they're gonna
Um,
love you and not walk away. They're
yeah,
your family, so we're good at
totally.
picking the right people. Yeah.
But when I started to be easier with them, it was actually easier to be gentle with myself,
Mhm.
because I think sometimes we are so harsh on others
Mhm.
because we are harsh on ourselves and we're like, I demand that
Mhm.
of myself, so I expect that from them,
Mhm.
right? But I think when we give them a break, it's like we can give ourselves a break. So I definitely have a couple mantras like I'm only going to accept constructive thoughts,
Mhm.
little things like that. It's the journey, not the end result, which is so true.
So
Because
true.
I used to think if the party wasn't perfect that I planned, or if the presentation I did at work wasn't perfect, then everything was blown, so to
That's
speak.
right.
No, it's really every action we're moving forward, that's the most important part, how we're growing.
That's
Not if
right.
the party was like a huge success or not a success, or no one came to your presentation or 100 people did.
That's
That's
right.
not the point,
No.
right? The point is to do it and you're going to grow in the process. I think
Right.
that's what you and I are learning.
And I think that's where
Yeah,
we connect in a lot of
yeah,
ways because I see myself in you, and I think vice versa. I was very much that person. The parties had to be perfect, the gatherings had to be perfect.
right.
Even in our like vacation where
Yes.
me and my kids and our grandkids all get together for Christmas for 4 or 5 days together, I would run myself ragged, and they'd always ask, "Can I help with something? Can I help with something?" And it was that part of me that couldn't let go because I was like, if I do it, I know it's going to be done right and I don't have to worry about it. And when I just a few years ago, where I finally said to my husband, here, you can help wrap presents. You've asked every time and I never let you do it. Letting go of that little piece and then the next year was like, here to the kids, can you guys take this piece of it and bring these things? And then last year, or, in 2025, when I finally said, yeah, I'm going to give you this piece, you that piece, you that piece, I'm bringing these things together. And, each night somebody's going to make the meal. It's always the same meal because they want our holiday traditional meals. But for each of them to take ownership of it and to have that, it was the best one yet because there was no pressure of, I need to do it all. I need to get up early. If the kids are running around early, I don't need to be down there doing it. They have parents, they have aunts and uncles who are there and who are with them and they can handle it. And my husband said to me, that was the best one yet because we were relaxed. We spent a lot of time outside. We didn't worry about like if we put the food in, we put it in and it was in there. We didn't have to keep checking and doing all the things. And they were taking another part of it. So it's that letting go gently where you finally feel like you can breathe again, right? And it's all going to be okay. It's going to be fine.
And it's amazing, right? You're like, "Wow."
Why didn't I do
Right,
this
and we
sooner?
fight this. Yeah, exactly. We
Right.
fight it, but it's just wonderful, but why that lesson is difficult, so difficult, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean, something I know, like, I know with physical, objects or whatever, we do get attached to them, we're afraid because we think, "What if I need that?" Or, "What if,"
Right.
something, or, "I spent the money, so
Hmm.
if I get rid of it, I'm gonna waste it," or whatever, but none of that is true because yeah, none of it is true.
Yeah. It's such a big one. And,
Yeah.
Linda, how do you think storytelling can help children process emotions like
Mhm,
attachment,
mhm,
fear, change? Because a lot of kids don't go through big changes like maybe we went through when we were younger, losing someone or
mhm.
things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But how can storytelling, in the simplest way, help these children process emotions like attachment, fear, and change?
right. Well, I think that's one of the things I love about children's picture books
Hmm.
because it they can really take difficult subjects. This one I mean, I've seen other books on death or very difficult things. This
Right.
isn't quite in that spectrum, but it they're able to take a subject and break it down to this delightful adorable pictures, and they're getting the lesson. It's sort of like a spoonful of medicine or
Hmm.
a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. I feel like it it really, in this particular book here, I feel like they can talk about the things that are important to them. We all see it even with kids in blankets, right? Sometimes you can't get that blanket away from them till they're 14
Yeah.
years old. So just to discuss those emotions and recognize, I think that's the important thing. It's the intentionality of what we are doing and being able, like, I am actually developing some worksheets around social emotional learning,
Love
like
it.
to do with the story in school and stuff, because the age group is 4 to 8, so it's kindergarten, 1st grade, that
Hmm.
2nd, that kinda age. But where they list, like, what are the treasures? They draw a picture. Why is this important to them? Mommy gave it to me, or this or that. But the point is to make them think and reflect and have, again, some intentionality about what they're doing, what they have, you know, in their room or their space. Why do they have that?
Right.
Things like that. And I think, like we mentioned earlier in the program, parents can help because they model. I mean, our
That's right.
kids are learning every day from us, right?
Right.
So you can be explaining the process to them of what you're acquiring or why or what you're giving away. I used to always do that with my kids.
Mhm.
This is we're gonna donate this, donate that. We always like donated
Mhm.
different things for various reasons. And I love what you talked about with your friend and how they do the Christmas toys and stuff because that stuff has an impact on them.
Absolutely.
And that is gonna they're gonna, do that kind of stuff in the future. But if they're not exposed to it, when they're younger, yes, hopefully maybe they're gonna pick it up, right? But
Right.
maybe not,
Right.
right? The chances of them holding on to it, that's why I said, wow, I want to go down to the younger level,
Yeah.
and
Because it has
because
to start that early on with
that's
kids.
what you have to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Because they have to think it's, their idea, so to speak. Like they're not gonna
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what I love about this book is that parents can use it as a tool for these meaningful conversations, right? And even in the first page of your book where you wrote to the collectors, treasure keepers, and the curious, may you always know when it's time to hold on and when it's time to let go. And can I just say, when I read that first
Mhm.
page, I had tears in my eyes
Thanks.
because it's so, as an adult, we carry so much, right? And there's so much that we hold on to. And we talked about that in that emotional clutter, right? And we keep these things that have happened in the past and we carry them and we feel heavy because of it. And so I as an adult took that and I just was like, wow, there's some things I need to let go of, right?
Mhm.
There's some things that I need to move through. And how can I do that in the best way possible for myself in a healthy way? But letting go of those things is the healthy way, right?
Right. Right, but it can be done gently, and it doesn't have to be hard, right?
Right.
And you can just like how we are progressing on our journey. I know I'm not working as fast as some other authors that are in my group for this publishing thing, but
Mhm.
guess what? I'm also working faster than some others. Everybody's on their journey, and that's another thing that I learned too. Everyone is on their journey, their own journey. So I'm just doing me the best way I can.
Yeah, and we've only been this
That's
age
it.
once, right? We've
Yeah,
only been here once, and I feel like
yeah,
my kids say it all the time. They're like, "But mom, you're doing the most. Like you're lit." And I'm like, "I do." And then sometimes I'm being hard on myself and going, "Well, I should have gotten that done sooner." But also I feel like everything's lining up and it's divine timing.
yeah,
Like I said this morning to you before we
yeah,
started, I was looking at this specific book that I needed to get out and I needed to do it this way, but it was still not feeling right. I see that my journey is shifting on
yeah,
that and it's still going to happen, but
yep,
it's going to happen in its right timing, right? And so it was again letting go of that self-imposed
right.
deadline that I
Yes,
keep putting on myself. My
yeah,
therapist pointed out many years ago, like, but whose deadline is that? Like, who wrote that deadline on the paper? And I said, I did. And so she's like, so why can't you erase it or cross it out or change it? And I was like, I don't know. I can. And she's like,
because
right.
I didn't give myself permission to do that.
Permission,
Right,
permission to
yeah,
let go
yeah,
of that
yeah, right,
gently. So, yeah, I just loved that, and I thought, "Wow, that really resonates for everyone," right? For adults, for children, for all of us. But, let's get back to that creative process, and what was the most meaningful part of writing this book for you as you reflect back?
I guess that I mean, honestly, that I'm just so proud that
Mm,
I accomplished this goal and have, like, a physical book, like,
yeah, I'm so
it's so
proud of you.
crazy.
Linda's holding it up, and it's so beautiful. I can't wait for you all to
I
see it.
I applied for, well, I'll tell you what, I have to get your address because 'cause you're getting a signed copy because
Yay!
I feel like you were instrumental in this journey because if you didn't start the writers group, a few things were instrumental. Me taking that other children's picture book class, the
Mhm.
intentionality class, and then you saying, let's continue this process because it's so easy to put stuff on a shelf and not
Yes.
do it.
Yeah.
And you really did inspire me. Like, first of all, in addition to your beautiful intro, I have also been a subscriber of
That's
your
right.
podcast from the beginning, and just watching you do the journals and doing the stuff on KDP and just moving forward with so many things, right? It helps give us a vision.
Mm.
And I'm like, "Hey, I could do that too." Or
Mhm.
like when I took the girl Gina, who shout out to Gina Kazaza because she founded a nonprofit called Empower Lit, Literacy and Beyond, and author programs in the schools to help with
Wow.
literacy.
Love
It's
that.
amazing. So I am helping her, and part of the book proceeds are going to go to her organization.
Love
But
that.
when I took her class, and I'm like, she did it. Like, I can do it. When you start getting these crazy thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. We are having the most crazy thoughts in our older age,
Like,
are
I
we
can
not?
do things, right? And
Yeah.
because normally I would have said, I can't. Who's going to care about a book that
Right.
I wrote?
Right.
Like, who am I? And I can't tell you how many times I told myself
Yeah, that
that.
imposter syndrome pops right in.
Yes. So just saying, guess what? I'm going to just do this and see what happens. And like, I did it. And then here you are. Like, I guess, like I said, it was a year and a half ago. And I'm
Mhm.
like, wow, like I actually did it. Like,
Right.
just going for those things that we thought we might have told ourselves were impossible. And now I'm like, I'm going to write other books. I'm looking at how can I get into the schools? What kind of SEL programs can I do?
That's right.
Yeah, it's like you're doing this and doing that and doing
I
that.
know,
And you have
teaching,
no,
doing this,
yeah,
yeah,
you have no idea. Like I said to my daughter the other day, opportunity is everywhere.
that's right.
It's just what are we going to participate in?
And I think when we show up for these things,
Yeah,
like I was never intending to teach classes through Ollie. I was a
right.
student of life. And, it was our friend Robin who said to me, "Oh, no, no, you need to turn around. You need to go to that office and do a class." And I started with the podcasting class. And then that grew into the writing journal class, the journal writing class, and then the poetry class, which just
You love.
incited this fire back up inside of me for poetry and moving forward. That's really what I want to focus on. But then that opened the door to like people saying, if you build it, we will come. Where are you going to have classes? We don't even care if it's through Ollie. Where are you going to do it? And then I was like, whoa, I don't know. I didn't think this far ahead, or I didn't
Big
even think this
or
big.
whatever. I
And
know.
it just grew and grew. And that's the thing. I feel like everything happens for a reason. I always say that, and I feel like we were supposed to be in that class together, right? Which led you to that class. And then I even said to you recently, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I don't even write children's books, but here are these children's books and a series of them like falling out of me. And again, for a reason, right? Because my granddaughter was struggling with something. And so that brought in the thought. And then you showed me how beautiful like yours came together. And I thought, well, yeah, I think this is a need, and I think I want to do this and I would love to engage with children in that way again, right? Not
Mhm.
in teaching in schools, but
It's
bringing something
magical.
forward like you're doing.
Magical, yeah. So
Yeah.
magical, and it's like my older daughter is, she started less than a year ago, a cookie business, a French macaron cookies. It's doing amazing. Now, she went to Stevens and MIT and was in banking for how many years, and she is just in something she loves now, and
Isn't
it's
that
just
crazy?
lighting her on fire. She's like, "This is crazy, mom. Everybody's happy. Everybody loves my product. I get paid." Like, it's nothing like when I was in banking,
Isn't it crazy?
and I just love the happiness. Like,
And
yeah,
you never know where that journey is going to take you, right? And I think we as parents, right, we did what we needed to do. It wasn't to say we weren't happy doing what we
right,
were doing. We
right,
were
right.
teaching children, we were in the education system, and we did beautiful things with that. But also, like, I talked with my son on the last night of my poetry class, and this is not to toot my own horn, but they stood up, they gave me a standing ovation. We were all in tears. We did not want this class
Mm,
to end because we
mm.
all felt lit up and safe in this beautiful way. And my son in this video chat, he was like, "Mom, you look so happy." Like, he's like, "You're really stepping into this, and what's next?" And I said, "I don't know what's next, but I know it's something, and I know it's coming, and I'm so open and ready to whatever it is." And it's what we've told our kids always, right? Follow your bliss, be happy, do what lights you up. And I've told my students, right? And it took them, one of them turning it back on me and saying, "Well, what lights you up? And what do you want to do with this next season of your life?" And here we are, like doing all these incredible things.
I know, and just the idea that, like, I now have so I applied for a Library of Congress number, and my book's gonna be in the Library of Congress. I'm very proud of
Yes,
that, and just knowing that I'm putting out a message that's important, and of course, I know the personal finance messages are super, and I'm definitely getting back on that
for
next,
sure.
and yeah, that gives me a good feeling, just like when
Mhm,
I went into education. I was in
mhm,
industry. I was in education for 15 years, but
mhm.
prior to that, I was in industry. Education was so much more rewarding,
Mm.
right? I still keep in contact with some of my students, which I love,
Still
and,
tutor
I
students.
still tutor, which
Yeah,
I love. But this is different, and I'm super excited to start going into schools and, like,
so
reading
excited.
to the kids and having them do these little worksheets and stuff. Yeah, I can't wait because I know that's gonna be, like, really fulfilling.
Yeah, and what do you
Yeah,
hope that children feel,
yeah.
after reading the Ollie's story?
I
Or you even reading it to them, like, what do you
Yeah.
hope that they feel?
Well, I want them to know they already have what's important to them, right?
Mhm.
Their parents' love, a safe home. I just want them to not think they have to get everything.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Just again, just that thought of intentionality,
Mhm.
and being like maybe when they go to the store, you know how like you used to sometimes not want to take your kids grocery
Oh,
shopping or
for
not
sure.
want because why? They couldn't go in the store without wanting
That's
everything.
right. Yeah,
So I'm just hoping that it's gonna spark a thought where they're like, "I don't have to have everything to be happy."
right, right.
And I already have, like, what's truly important to me? What is, like really, it's just my blanket. That I just want that intentionality because,
Yeah,
like I said, I almost want people from a younger age and we get married, start our families, do this and do that. I want them to come into that with the premise of already of not accumulating. I don't
exactly.
wanna handle it on the other side
That's right.
when they have to let go of all this stuff they accumulated over decades, right?
Mhm.
So the whole point is to, like, prevent that from happening, you
Yeah,
know?
and this book, is obviously written for children,
Right.
but we know that this speaks to adults
Mm,
as well,
mhm.
and,
Right.
just the letting go of anything. It can be that emotional clutter, you know?
Yes. Yes, and I'm hoping too that I don't want this to be like a lesson on minimalism and you can't buy things
That's
and you
right.
can't have things. It's not about that. I love buying things. I love having nice things.
Mhm.
I'm not saying you can't do that.
That's right.
But let's think about it. Do you need 25 pair of shoes? Do you need 20 purses?
Exactly.
Or whatever the case might be, even kids, right? Do they need 20 of the same toys or the Polly Pockets or whatever all the things were that were coming out? Um, I just want them to not think they have to have everything because that brings a lot of other pressure too, financial pressure,
So much.
tons of baggage that if we can prevent that from happening, you know, I feel like we'll have decades more of happiness, in life
That's right.
than, learning that lesson later in life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's do a little, if Ali could give advice to our listeners himself, this wonderful, beautiful octopus, what do you think he would say?
He would say that you don't have to accumulate everything, that you have to keep around you the things that are important to you. And he may say, I discovered that the important things to me were having my blanket because when I didn't have that, had anxiety, right? I couldn't find it, and it was upsetting to me, or my story shell, like, the things that truly gave me comfort and would help me settle in at night. So I think he would say, "Pay attention to the things that are important to you and not always be looking for the next thing." Ollie might say, "Was always looking for the next thing, the next best thing."
Finding joy in that
Right, in
moment
what you
right in it.
have,
And we're
just what you
guilty of
have.
that, you know,
Yes.
like, we're guilty of chasing and as a society, right? We're guilty of chasing the next best thing instead of, like, being present in the moment, and that's what I've learned as I've aged, right, is slowing down and appreciating what I'm in right now. Time flies. Time goes so fast, right? So I just wanna sit in these moments and
Mhm.
appreciate, what I have and where I'm at in this present moment instead of going, "But I need to reach there and I need to get there
Right.
quicker
That's
and
a good
faster."
point. I was always living in the future,
Mhm.
like, and I'm like, "What am I doing?" Right? I don't even know if tomorrow's gonna come. Like, I was always like, "When I get that house," or "When I
That's
get
right.
that car," or "When," and it was always tied to usually some financial thing, right?
That's
Or
right.
some financial goal, and I don't have that anymore, and it's like when you said about letting go of the different tasks that we feel required to do all
Mhm.
ourselves, right? Um, you're like, "Wow, why didn't I just do it sooner?" But
Right.
we don't. We hang on to those things, and they make us feel important maybe, or like you said, we know we're gonna do it better than them.
Right.
One thing my mother used to tell me all the time when I used to have, help in the home when I was working and I had children, and she'd say, "Linda, unless you wanna do it all yourself, you're gonna have to let people do some things the
That's
way they
right.
wanna do it, and you just have to do that. That's one of those accepting how things are, not like how "Oh, well, they shoulda done it this way, or they shoulda done it that way," you know, right?
Yeah, and I
Just
wish
let that.
I see my daughter-in-laws with their littles, and I
Mhm,
try to say to them, and I hope that,
mhm.
parents, and especially parents
Right,
of young children sit
right.
back and really listen to that part of letting go of the need to do everything, like burnout. I can remember kind of the exact moment with 3 boys that I was just burnt out, and because I wasn't letting anyone do anything. And I look back at that and I'm like, "I wish I had known better," you know?
Mhm.
I mean, I knew better, but I wasn't doing better. So, I hope that parents take that and think, "You know what? It's okay to take a break." Nobody is questioning your parenting if you're taking a break and taking time for yourself because you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So, now here we are, reflecting back as adults now, right? With adult kids and, their own kids, some of us. And I look at that and I go, "Wow, I wish I had done better with that," and so I hope that parents, listen to that. Just accept the help. It's probably not gonna be done the way you would do it, but that's okay. That's okay, and that's a huge thing for me in letting go lately. Sometimes I'm just like, "Okay, here," to my husband, "You can take that. You can do that. I don't need to do it. I don't need to do it all," right? And not living in the future or the past, living in the present.
Totally, totally.
Yeah, I love that. So as we wrap up here,
Mm,
I just have a couple last
mm.
questions. Um, what's one moment lately that reminded you that, and I think we've talked about this a little bit, that reminded you that everything's unfolding as it should be?
Yeah, well, so one funny thing is, or one thing that came up recently is the program I'm in. So I love it and I highly recommend it for
Can you
people.
tell?
The publishing company is Miriam Laundry Publishing, and they only do children's picture
Mhm.
books, but they are amazing. And their program is a year, runs through for a year, and in that process they help you and handhold you through through everything. They do editing for you, they
Mhm.
help you find an illustrator. Yeah, it's just amazing. But of course, I was actually group 20, and each group probably has 10 to 15 to 20 people depending. Probably more than 10, 15 to 20. And they're already on, group 23, and they're like, if you do the second book with them, it's cheaper, of course, because, they don't have to handhold you as much and the process goes a little bit quicker.
Exactly.
So they're like, "Oh, we'll give you a discount to sign up, with this new group, and then in 9 months you'll have your second book." It's easy to that's another thing where you need to be intentional, right?
That's right.
Because it's so easy to get caught up in the hype
Mhm.
and be like, "Yes, yes, yes, I wanna do that too." But I am already, like, overwhelmed with just doing the first book,
That's
and
right.
then now I have to market it, now I wanna figure out how to get it into schools,
That's right.
and I had to be like, "No, I'm not gonna do that now."
That's right.
Even though you might
You
feel
want to.
pressure,
Yeah, you feel
you
that pressure
want
and need.
to,
Yeah.
you feel that pressure, but I had to sit with it for a few days. It would have been easy to get caught up. I've seen
Mhm.
other authors do that too, and I thought, "You know what? That's not right for me right now.
Right.
It's not right for me right now." Like, and so what if I have to do it slower? I'm not gonna put that pressure on myself. You know, I'm not ready with that second book. I do have the manuscript from the first book that I was
Right.
thinking about doing when I was doing finance, but I don't wanna rush the
That's
process
right.
and jump into that now when I'm ready. So I am getting more confident and comfortable with letting go of I have to be part of that because
That's
this
right.
train, I gotta jump on this train right now,
Right.
right? Because timing's a big thing, and sometimes we might miss an opportunity. But I am not gonna miss an opportunity because they're always gonna be there, and I can go back at any time and do that when I'm ready, right? Letting go, you have to let go of that I have to do everything and it has to be like every other people are going to do it. My group
They're
should be
jumping
ready
on
to
board,
move
right?
on and I'm like, "No, I'm not ready and I'm going to get off the train right now for a little bit.
Yeah, and you can
Do
enjoy the
this thing."
present, right? Because 'Cause you're in it right now. You're in
Right.
the middle of this
Right.
first book coming out
Yeah.
and all that it entails. Because it's not just writing
Right.
a book and you step back.
I
Now
know.
it's marketing and all the things. So sitting
Yes.
in it and appreciating it for
Yes.
what it is.
Totally. And then things that I am also still working on letting go of. We touched a little bit upon it, but it's perfectionism.
Mm, big
And
one.
I habitually overthought everything before I
Same.
would start
I mean,
anything.
the podcast all in my head. Right, right.
So my mantra with that now is action is motivation, but we have to
Yeah,
just take action. It's never gonna be the perfect time, right? So you just do it and figure things out. But not in a crazy way, because like I said, I have to step off this train right now because I'm
that's
not
right.
ready for that, right? So
That's right.
we have to be good about that, like setting our boundaries and knowing what we can do. Just take action and move forward. And I also wanted to make a shout out to a couple of, I guess you call them influencers,
Hmm,
but one is Shira Gill, Gil. The other one is Courtney Carver, and they are like intentional living, simple living type people.
love that.
Those 2 women were kind enough to give me an endorsement for the book. They're on the
Mm,
back of the book.
well,
But I've learned like so many things from them about just intentional living, decluttering, all that kind of stuff.
right.
That's helped me. And what are some other things that I wanted to mention? I talked before about there's a lot of research that
Mhm.
proves that if we have an uncluttered life, both physically and emotionally, it leads to more happiness. Right.
Right.
So it reduces stress. It gives us a better sense of calm. It helps us focus and it creates physical and mental space for creativity and personal growth.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Right. Right. Isn't that true?
Absolutely. I'm never more creative than when I'm organized and when I'm not pressuring myself. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then some of the reasons why people do struggle with letting go of like physical objects and
Mhm.
stuff is because of the sentimental value and the emotional value, but we're not gonna lose the memories when we let them go, and sometimes you can have like sort of like a little ceremony or maybe take a
Mm,
picture of something or be
yes.
like, sit with that. Oh my gosh, it brought me so much pleasure, but now I'm moving it on, I'm donating it, I'm giving it to a family
Yes.
member, I'm doing something like that. I mean, I throw out very little, so I'm not trashing my belongings anyway.
Right.
They're going somewhere,
Exactly.
except maybe sometimes cards because we got a lot of cards and, you
Yeah.
know, I save a
It's
few,
hard.
but it
Yeah,
is
it's
hard.
hard,
It's hard.
and even with cards, I have a
Yeah,
whole thing about that, but
yeah,
we can talk about that
yeah.
another day. But what I, have done and what I've seen is, and again, I go back to Larissa saying, finding the joy in being able to give something to someone and watching my kids this Christmas where I gave them each something that was ours and that we were holding on to. And then I gave them a little note with it and what it was about and like the candlesticks that my husband and I got for our wedding, 35 years ago, but we don't use them. They were just sitting collecting dust. Where I have my youngest son who he loves to have a nice dinner on Sunday and light candles. And so he's going to use that. And that meant something to him. And then a mirror that my husband's grandfather had forever and the story behind that. And I was able to give that to my son, my middle son. And he's like, I know exactly where it's going with my
Nice.
flags because he's a vet and he has his flag and he has his
And how
medal. And so
yeah.
to be able to watch that in real time where someone else is going to enjoy these beautiful things that were just sitting in a cabinet for me or were tucked away in the garage, that they're using them and they're having this intentional, beautiful moment with them. And that for me was this year unfolding into 2026. For me, it was all about intentionality. If it didn't feel intentional, and it didn't sit with me, then I'm not doing it. So there was a lot of things that I said no to, but the things that I said yes to opened up beautiful doors and I
Yes.
met beautiful people because of it and I found new opportunities because of it. So I feel like when you're stepping with intentionality, the right things are going to come into your orbit. And that's hard for us, right? We're older women stepping into this world of publishing a book where there's so many young people who are doing all these things and are great at social media and they're getting on there and doing all these things. But also I feel like we're an underrepresented demographic, right? And why can't we do it? Right? Who's going to tell us no? No, we're doing it. We want to see other women and people in our age group do the same things, whatever it is, whether it's writing a book or just following that dream. That's something that's been kind of tugging at you, saying, like, come on, let go of that idea that you can't do it, right? Again, letting go gently of the idea of, I can't do this. Why not?
Mhm.
Why can't
I
you do
know.
it?
And I'm proud, and I know that my kids are proud and,
Yeah.
my husband's proud, and I think we're setting a good example, which is always what I wanna be doing.
Yeah, that's the what we wanna, right? What do you wanna leave this world having left your imprint on? And I hope that it's that I was kind to people and that I helped someone along the way and that I didn't just tell people to do things and not do it myself, right? Because I was good at that for a long time. Do, follow your dreams, but yet I was sitting here kind of like, should
That's
I,
not
shouldn't
for
I?
me. That's
That's
not for me.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, what is that? What's your hope that listeners take away from this if you had to kind of just cram it all in a nutshell and say, I hope listeners of this episode take away.
I hope they take away that to be gentle with themselves, right? To give themselves permission to just be, and that it's not the things that bring us happiness,
Mm,
even though we think that's the case. But I'm sure so many of us have later discovered that we didn't get the boost
mm,
or that high or that oomph that we thought we were gonna get,
right,
right? And
right.
how many things do we get that later we're like, "Ugh, I c it's not bringing me the joy that I
Yeah.
thought." So I just want people, again, to be intentional about what they have around them, what they're keeping in their life,
Hmm.
both physically, and emotionally.
Mhm.
If you're carrying around, that you were hurt some way or,
Mm.
this and that all in my head, like let it go because it's not serving you. So I think we just need to think like, are the things around us serving us, right? Are they, like you said, I can't function in a unorganized environment.
Mhm.
It's just not conducive to me being productive or focused. So I need to have calm and, organization. But it's more than that. I just don't want children to feel the pressure of having to be accepted,
Right, to
or
keep up.
to think that the possessions give them worth.
Mm.
That's what I think, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not that. And if push comes to shove and we really think about what would we be devastated losing in our
Mm.
lives, right? It wouldn't be all those objects that we
No.
accumulated. So that I just want people to be aware of what they're bringing into their environment. That's kind of where the ocean thing came into play too. Because I do just feel that all the stuff that we don't need, that we accumulate, is only going to go into our environment later.
Right. Right.
And I don't like that idea. I don't like that idea. And I think let's be more intentional.
Yeah, let's be more intentional.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
all.
that's the best thing
Yeah,
to leave it
that's
all
it.
with, right?
Right,
Worth isn't the stuff.
right.
It's the worth is inside of you,
Mhm.
right? So and just be intentional. So I can't wait for you all to check out this book. I mean, I can't say enough of how proud I am of
Thanks,
Linda
Jenny.
and how grateful I am that we came into each other's orbit, because I feel like, I'm only a better person because of the people that lift me up and that continue to support the things that I do. And in turn, I just want to continue to support what my friends are doing. So you can find out more about Linda and her books at lindamurphybooks.com. She is also on Facebook at Linda Murphy Books and Instagram at Linda Murphy Books. So please go check her out, support her pages, and purchase a copy of Ollie's Caves of Treasures, which now, when this episode airs, is on Amazon. So get out there and get that copy. And just remember, whatever you're holding on to, whatever's kind of holding you down, let go of it gently. And I hope to see you all back here on another episode of the All in My Head podcast. And if you aren't having that kind of day, let it go gently.